an HBCU fan, someone you will certainly recognize as a true HBCU legend. But with no further ado, I'll let my co-host, Johnnie Cole, give him his proper introduction.
Thank you, Rocky. First of all, I want to dedicate this show to my oldest brother who passed away, and we laid him down yesterday. So I want to dedicate this show to him. But one reason why, and I always tell you guys how I started this show, is because we've always had greatness in this conference. Unfortunately, our greatness don't get recognized like the guys at PWI, and the guy that we bringing on is no different than a Lou Holtz or Bobby Bowen or Nick Saban. That's what he is to me. That's what he is to a lot of us. I can't even tell you how many people that came under him, but we'll say some greats like Coach Gibbs at Fort Valley, Trey Oliver, Coach Washington, Pete Richardson. It goes on and on. So without no further ado, my friend, my idol, my mentor, Coach Bill Hayes.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going down there?
It's great, Coach, man, and I'm just glad I was able to reach out to you, and we had a connection. And Sherman Simmons, who is a great friend of mine, actually caught you at the right time because a lot of great things are happening to you and happening for you. So we could kind of start out, Coach, what's going on with you in your life and how you been since you left the sidelines.
Well, I'll tell you, John, I've been working really hard to raise money for HBCUs in this area. I have the Carlin and Bill Hayes Foundation, and what I've been doing is we have this 2 or 3 events during the year, one big golf tournament, and bring all the ACC coaches in and all the MEAC and CIAA coaches in. We try to raise a couple of $100,000 and just get the money back to the HBCUs. We give money to A&T. We give money right directly back to Winston-Salem State, Fayetteville, John C. Smith, Elizabeth City, and NCCU for sure. And what it does, I remember, Johnny, we never had enough of anything. We always had our hand out begging. In fact, we worked so hard Monday through Friday trying to figure out how we're going to get to the game, and trying to get a bus and trying to do this and get hotel rooms and get meals for the kids. It was so hard. The struggle was so great trying to get to the game. So to get there was a victory to get to the game. And, of course, if you won, that was a blessing.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I know you went up against some of the greats. I had opportunity with my brother to go up against you, and unfortunately, you stood tall. Kind of tell us, Coach, again, this is very important because I'm going to say this. Deion Sanders did great for our conference. He brought some light to it. But some of the things that people didn't know about HBCU football is that we've always had greats, always had great athletes. And when he comes out and says things, or I'm not, and I shouldn't say he, but people who don't know about HBCUs are saying, oh, well, this happened for the first time. He's great. He makes the kids go to class. And all that's good, Coach. Don't get me wrong. But it's guys like you who laid the foundation, who made me want to be HBCU coach. Trey Oliver want to be Coach Gibbs, Broadway, Washington, kind of tell us, Coach, how you started off.
And half those guys that you named, Johnny, I trained.
Yeah, well, Coach, I know that.
Yeah, Sam Washington and all those guys, they cut their teeth sitting at my feet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, I'm real proud of what we've been able to do. I'm an HBCU guy. I graduated from North Carolina College, then North Carolina Central now, and played center and middle linebacker, All-American 3 times at both sides of the ball. And I had a great career and went on to, I never forget how good my coaches were. Coach Herman Riddick was my college football coach, and George Quiet. Those are 2 legendary coaches in HBCU football. And I never forget George Quiet and those guys. When I got my first coaching job up in Virginia, little town outside of Danville. They gave me you had to wear a suit and tie, necktie to school back then. If you taught physical education, you changed over into your PE uniform. But when you came back into the main building, you had to have on a suit and tie. Those coaches took care of me and taught me the right way to get things done, Johnny. And I'll never forget them. I've been down that road. I integrated the ACC. I was the first black coach east of the Mississippi, coaching at a Division I school. And the crazy thing, I never forget, I used to go to the American Football Coaches Association meeting. Johnny, you and I used to hang out there, but the guys used to say, hey, man, that guy coaches a position. Because a lot of the guys black guys back in the day, they were recruiters for predominantly white schools, but they didn't coach. They just recruited. But I was fortunate enough to be an offensive line coach and in Division I. And so it was amazing to me that guys would coach football and not coach and just be recruiters. And I did my share of recruiting too, because we had some great ones. When I think back over my year, John, I probably had over 150 guys sign a pro contract over my tenure. I stopped counting
Coach,
150.
I want you to keep going, but I want to just cut right there. Let our people who's watching the show know, Coach, Jess was in what, the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah. It wasn't really long ago. You know what I mean? But
that's right.
Go ahead, Coach. I just want to let them know.
I'd also like to, Coach Hayes, I'd like to step in here and let everybody know who's listening on the radio on CBS Sports 1. You also can listen on the app at Syntex Sports 1 on the Apple Place at the Apple and Google Play Store. We have a very successful HBCU head coach and coaching legend, Bill Hayes, and we're so happy to have him with us today. Coach Cole, I know you're about to ask him a question. You can go ahead and go, but I wanted to let our listeners know who exactly they were listening to at this time. The legendary HBCU coach, Coach Bill Hayes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rocky.
I just want to keep the timing of it. The reason why that we've had great coaches, but that didn't get overlooked. But go ahead, Coach. You were going from you just integrated to ACC and first black coach in the ACC. And you go back from there, Coach.
Well, I think about, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we buried Bishop Harris. Bishop was the second black coach in the Atlantic Coast Conference at Duke University. And then Clemson hired a guy named Bill Swinger about 2 months after Wake Forest hired me. So it was me the first guy. And then, of course, when Duke hired Bishop Harris, he was number 2. And then Bill Swinger at Clemson. And then after that, a lot of predominantly white schools in the South started hiring black coaches. But, I was the pioneer. I was the guy that started it all. But you know what, John? I always act like I was supposed to be there. I learned that early on that ain't nobody doing me no favor. I'm supposed to be where I am, and I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing, and I'm gonna carry myself like I'm supposed to be there, and like I'm the best of the best. And I believed I was. I never doubted my ability in terms of coaching with other guys race different from mine. So I'm gonna outwork them. I'm gonna recruit them. I'm gonna coach them. I'm gonna get it done for you, and that was my attitude.
Now, Coach. Even now today, in the mindset, I know my brother coached PWIs, and all of a sudden he was just tired of being an assistant coach, and the opportunity. Back then, when you had the opportunity to jump back into HBCU, what was your thinking? Was you saying, man, I'm tired of being an assistant head coach. I want to be able to run my own show, or how did that work out?
It wasn't like that. Actually, you all remember the legendary Big House Gaines. Well, I was coaching O-line at Wake Forest University, and I looked up one day and saw this big guy, Big House Gaines, watching me coach. And after the practice, he came over. He said, Bill, I need you to come over and talk to my people. He said, we got to hire a football coach, and those folks don't have a clue about what it takes to coach college football. So he said, if you would come over on Tuesday night and talk to the committee about what we need to be hiring to coach. So I go over and I talk to him. I got on a checkered shirt and kind of relaxed. I go over and talk to these folks, and toward the end of my conversation, this lady said, well, Coach, you at Wake Forest University. I just want to know, why would you want to coach at Winston-Salem State? I said, hold on a minute. First of all, I never said I wanted to coach at Winston-Salem State. I'm coaching at Wake Forest. I'm doing a good job. They're paying me well. They gave me a house and a car. I never said I. So, long story short, a few days later, Big House Gaines came to my house and said, Bill, those folk want you to be the football coach, which I thought was crazy. I said, you must be out of his mind. But I got to thinking about something, Johnny. It was 1976, and I'm saying, when are things going to change? When am I going to have a chance to be a head coach? I could take this job at this school, and they don't have a clue about what it takes to win football game. Or I can sit around here in this PWI, and it might be 10 years, it might be 50, it might be. When is it going to change? When are these folk going to give black folk a chance to be the head? I want to be the head coach. And so I thought about that thing. I got to take a pay cut to go over there and coach. But I had this burning desire to be a head football coach. And I just felt so strongly about my ability that I thought I could get it done literally with nothing. Right. So, but the thing that made me do what I did, and the absolute only reason that I decided to go to Winston-Salem State and be the head coach, I went in, I was going to use it to get a raise at Wake Forest. So I went to the head coach. He said, well, Bill, we want to give you some more money, but you got to go up and talk to the athletic director, and then because we really want to keep you here. So I go up and talk to the AD, and he said, yeah, well, we're going to give you a nice raise, coach. You don't have to worry about that, blah, blah, blah. Then he said, you know what, Bill? No matter who we hire going forward as the head coach, you always going to have a job. You always going to be one of our top assistant coaches. I'm saying, wait a minute, don't this guy realize I want to be the head coach? And that right there told me that they had no inclination about making me the head coach. And I said, it's time me get out of here if I want to be a head coach, because I have no idea whether it's going to be 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, if they're ever going to hire a black man to be the head coach. So I went to HBCU at Winston-Salem State, and they had won one game in the last 2 years. And I go in there, man, and we won 4 games my first year. And then the next 2 years, we went undefeated. Wow. We were 30-2 over the next. Yeah. We got it done real fast.
Well, Coach, man, I love it, Coach.
Hey, Coach, let me. I just want to put Coach. Hey, I just got to put a point of clarification of what he said. How long would it take? 10 years, 20 years? And I want to make a point, because it took literally almost 20 years for Jim Caldwell to become the first head coach at actually Wake Forest in 1993. So think about what the through line from 1976 all the way to 1993. And for you young folks, that's the same Jim Caldwell that coached the Colts, that took him to a Super Bowl, coached the Detroit Lions. I want you to understand what the start, the genesis to the end. So, Coach, I just wanted to put that in there because you made such a point that it literally did take 20 years for people to see at your school that started, which, Wake Forest a lot of credit for breaking those barriers that they did. They broke the barrier with you and also broke the barrier with Coach Caldwell. So I just wanted to put that out there, Coach.
Yeah, well, great.
Go ahead, Coach.
Johnny, the beautiful thing when I was at Wake Forest and they would send me on these assignments, I never forget the head coach called me in one day. He said, Bill, I got a speaking engagement down in Raleigh at the Raleigh Country Club on Tuesday night, and I can't make it. So I want you to go down there and talk to those folk in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I said, hey, Coach, don't you realize the Raleigh Country Club is segregated? I can't go to the Raleigh. He said, BS, you go, you be there at 6 o'clock and you speak. Now, if they don't want you to speak, then you come on back home and that's on them. But you go down there with all intentions to speak. And I went down, had a great time. Never had a problem. You know why? Because I act like I was supposed to be there. I act like I was, I knew what I was doing. I knew I had it covered. Wow. And so, I used that same approach when I went down to Mississippi State back in the 70s and the Clemson. No black man had never been in those arenas in the capacity that I went in there as. So going to all those major schools that we played in the South and going to those facilities, and those cooks and maids and butlers that worked there, they were amazed and astonished that I was doing what I was doing. And I had to carry myself at a certain level to make them proud, and they took care of me. It was a lot of fun.
Even today, Coach, and I'm gonna keep on letting you go because and your story is falling right in line of why I started this story, this line about even today, Coach. 75-80% of football coaches in the PWIs are white. So has it changed? Yes, but has it changed where it should be? No, and we're nowhere near that. And when you now, Coach, what's happening, and I don't know how much you've been keeping up with it, is now our people are looking for Black coaches from PWI schools. They won't give jobs to HBCU guys who don't came up. And you, of course, you just said, man, Coach, you don't name 7, 8 guys that have came under me that that can coach football. So as a young guy coming out, this is frustrating. What is your take on that when you hear that and where you are now? And of course, you've seen it from the beginning to now, and it really still haven't changed. And it's even getting worse on HBCU guys. So I was just sharing that information with you.
Well, Johnny, I didn't come through that era. I had, when guys like Pete Richardson came and we worked together, and he was my defensive coordinator, and I had a lot of great, Rob Broadway, I had a lot of great ones. Gibbs down at Fort Valley, his daddy, and I had all those guys, and the Timmy Newsons of the world, and they all came through. So I just don't understand why or what would make a person think that a man of color from an HBCU couldn't get it done, because I don't see anything like that at all. So I can't speak about that because that was beyond me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But go ahead, Coach.
I think about the Ken Rileys of the world. Those are my guys. The Joe Taylors of the world. Those guys can coach ball.
Yeah. So, Coach, you being the first Black guy at Wake Forest, you take over at Winston-Salem, and then you kind of jump around a little bit. Tell us about that.
Well, I did 12 years, and in that 12 years, I wanted to have my own money, to have a recruit. Back then, they didn't give you a budget. You had to coach by the week. So if you won this week, they'll give you enough money to go to the next week. And after a while, after 12 years, that can get old. So I had a chance to go and coach at North Carolina A&T, and the facilities were a little bit better, and the money was a little bit greater, and it was the student. I think we probably had like 9,000-10,000 students, and the stadium was a little bit bigger. So I thought it was an opportunity to have a better opportunity to advance my career and a better opportunity to coach on a higher level. And so I went over, and surprisingly though, when I got there, I found out it might have been in worse shape than what I had just left. But I had so much pride and so much self-determination, I wasn't about to fail. So I think 2 years after I took the job, we won the MEAC championship in 1990 and 1991. So, but A&T is a great place, and still, but now they are in a different arena now, because now they're in the CAA, and I don't quite understand that, so I better not comment on it.
Now, Coach Hayes, I have my name. This is Rocky, and I have a question for you, Coach. When you integrated the coaching ranks in the ACC, right?
Yeah.
What were the conversations like about what players you could bring on the program? How many Black players could you bring into the program? Like, what were the conversations like, and what kind of limitations did you have?
Do you remember? You don't remember. You're too young. But there was a great guy from the University of Tennessee by the name of Beatty Feathers. He was a great All-American football player. He was on our coaching staff at Wake Forest. And I'll never forget, we had a staff meeting, And so Beatty says to Coach Chuck Mills, who's deceased now, he says, Chuck, there are a lot of great black athletes down in the eastern part of the state of North Carolina. Why don't you send Bill down there to get them? And I never forget, Chuck Mills said, whoa, wait a minute. I thought I signed you to Eastern North Carolina. I thought that was Bill's got Virginia, all of Virginia and Western Carolina. So what are you telling me? You telling me you're not going to recruit kids in your area? Thank God I was blessed to have a head coach in Chuck Mills that didn't play that mess. See, I recruited all kind of. I coached white boys on the O-line. That's what I coached. I didn't have many black athletes on my O-line. I had white boys on the O-line, big old white boys that I coached. I recruited all over North Carolina, recruited a lot of white kids and black kids. It didn't matter. I coached men. I don't coach skin. I don't coach skin at all. I coach men. And so thank God I was blessed to have Coach Chuck Mills as the head coach at Wake Forest University when I took the job, and he didn't play that at all. He was way different from most people that I came in contact with. In fact, he was frightening to me sometimes being born in the South. I'll never forget, there's a guy that you guys may remember named Clark Gaines. Clark Gaines was a great running back. And I was recruiting on Clark, and so Clark said, well, Coach, Chuck Mills said, Bill, when you going to sign Clark? I said, well, okay, Coach, I go up there, go to junior college, and Clark, it's time, I've been with you now for a year. It's time for you to sign, blah, blah. He said, well, Coach, I got to bring Kathy with me. Whoa. Kathy didn't look like us. Kathy was a white girl. So I said, well, now, is Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Wake Forest University ready for Clark and Kathy in the dorm? So I go back, and Chuck Mills says, Bill, did you get Clark signed? I said, Coach, we got to talk about that. Talk about what? I said, well, he wants to bring Kathy with him. I said, Kathy's a little white girl, Coach. Now, he said, well, what the hell are you talking about? You go up there tomorrow and you get him signed and bring Kathy with him. That was Chuck Mills. Chuck Mills was far ahead of anybody I came in contact with in the South. He didn't play that at all. He was very, very liberal and a great man. And thank God I had a chance to coach under his supervision. And he allowed me to coach, and he allowed me to recruit men all over. Didn't matter for race or anything else. So thank God I didn't have those kind of problems being a protege, being an assistant coach under Chuck Mills.
Now, Coach, you made that transition. You coached in the MEAC. You coached in the CIAA. And even today, now we got coaches still staying in office. Coaches still not making enough money. Do you think back then that in administration, I know you used to be the big man on campus. If you walked on A&T, where Coach Hayes at? And I know you kind of was in control. Now, of course, in HBCUs, that's not happening no more. There's not the big time coach. Do you think the administration in the HBCUs have kept up with today's trend? Because when the PWI started recruiting white guys, they started building bigger stadiums, bigger homes. Share some of that with you. You did get a chance to see that transition.
Well, see, I think you got to find a way. You can sit around and feel sorry for yourself all you want to, but ain't nobody going on Saturday when that game started. Ain't nobody gonna feel sorry for you. So you gotta find a way to win. You got to do what you got to do, and you got to put it together. I remember, Johnny, I was at A&T 15 years. They never gave me a budget to bring recruits in. So I put on a suit and tie and went to all the top hotels in Greensboro and told them that I needed 5 rooms on Friday and Saturday night, and blah, this is what I'm going to do. If you let me have these 5 free rooms, then I'm going to go to 10 restaurants, and I'm going to get meals for 10 couples to come in on Saturday night between 5:30 and 6. See, you got to find a way to get it done. Now, you can sit around and point the finger and blame everybody else, but you know what? At the end of the day, my daddy taught me, son, you got to beat somebody to work. You got to get there first. You get there first and you work harder than everybody else, things gonna be all right. So I ain't never worried about what they gonna do for me. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna find a way to bring the top kids in. I'm gonna have meals. I'm gonna have the best facilities for them to play in. I'm gonna do all of that. And so when I sit around, I hear them complaining about what they ain't got. I'm gonna figure out a way to get what I need, because that's on me. All I want is the opportunity. That's all I want, and I'm gonna do the rest. So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
How does you coming up through a HBCU black college as a student, how much did you take that with you and make you even a better coach than you that you are? Did it help you when you took over Winston-Salem and A&T and those programs?
Well, see, I had the best coaches in the world at North Carolina Central. My head football coach, Herman Riddick, was a biology teacher. He taught a full load of biology classes. He wore a suit and tie every day. He was dressed sharp, shoes shine. He was a great role model. He was what I needed. Coming from where I came from in the bottom side of Durham, North Carolina, poor kid, I needed to play for a role model like Herman Riddick. I need to see a man with class. I've been around all those other kind of folk, those winos and those crazy, but he was class. And the George Quiet, our other coach, was class. They dressed the part. They act the part. They spoke right. They were great teachers. They taught me how it ought to be. That's who I learned from. And so consequently, when I became a head coach, I would never wear no gym clothes on the campus. I'm walking around with a suit and tie on, like my coach taught me to do too. Now, when I get ready to go down to coach, I'm gonna go down to the office and change clothes and put on some clothes to go out and coach in. But when I'm in the public eye and I'm representing that program and I'm representing those kids, I'm gonna have my act together. That's what I was taught, and that's the way we learned. And we learned, don't feel sorry for yourself. Find a way to get it done. You could always point the finger at other folk and make excuses about why you can't get it done. But the bottom line is, it's on. If it is to be, it's up to me. Just take me to the game and turn me and loose. Turn me and loose on them folks, because I'm gonna finish it. You see what I mean? So I think if it is to be, it's up to me, Johnny. And I can't all those things. I can't worry about those things I can't control. Right. I gotta only worry about those things that I got full control of. And that's that 60, 70, 80, 90 ball players. I got control of them. I got control of my practice time. I got control of I never forget training assistant coaches. We had these coaches. We didn't have enough coaches, so we go out and find some coaches, some volunteers. And we stay in the office, and I'm coaching the volunteers till 11, 12 o'clock at night, so they be ready to coach the next day. Which foot to step with, what hand placement, how they rip and swim on defense. I got to teach them that every night to get ready for the next day. Them same guys turn me into the AD. That guy working us too hard. He keep my wife mad because we working 11, 12 o'clock every night, which I thought was crazy. Yeah. But you know what? We got to find a way to win. Nobody's going to, I learned a long time ago in coaching, and nobody going to feel sorry for you. I'll never forget one time we played up at Norfolk State. Played a great game. They kicked a field goal on us. The last play of the game to beat us. I'm standing there by the locker room door after the game was over. People walked by me and looked at me, ready to throw mud in my face. Mm-hmm. I looked down in the crowd and I see this lady coming. And it was my wife. She walked up to me and I said, Lord, finally somebody gonna come and feel sorry for me. So I reached out to put my arm around her and she said, Bill, you dumb SOB, why in the hell did you do blah, blah, blah? See, don't nobody feel sorry for you when you lose, Johnny.
That's right. That's right.
You got to find a way to win. That's right.
Hey, you're listening live to HBCU Coaches Corner, and we have the legendary HBCU college football coach, Bill Hayes. He's truly a legend, and he's dropping a lot of wisdom today. I also have my co-host, Steve Campbell, along with the legend himself, Johnnie Cole. Coach Hayes, I have a question for you. And it's it's bringing us up to the today's situation in coaching. In the last 30 years in HBCU coaching, me and Coach Cole has looked back and we've checked out the landscape. There are been some many coaches that won championships in those 30 years. But for whatever reason, we haven't had the guys that has sustained over history like the W.C. Gordons, the
Bill Hayes.
Bill Hayes. Of course, Eddie Robinson was legendary. When you talk about Billy Joe or whatever, we haven't had a coach stay 10 years, 11 years, 12 years in a program. Can you speak to what stability means to a program and maybe even comment as to why we don't have it anymore in HBCU football?
Well, back in the day, those old college presidents, they let the coach coach. And they created an atmosphere. While we didn't have a lot of money, we had a lot of loyalty inside the administration. Well, the president and his staff had respect for the coach. And they treated the coach a lot differently. As years have passed, when I first started, the chancellor was a great guy. I mean, he talked to you like you were a human being. The longer I coach, the further away from us those chancellors got. And then they look at you at the corner of their eye, like something's wrong with you, knowing full well that they hadn't given you what you need to win with. But on Saturday, they get amnesia, and they think you're going to win, supposed to win anyway. And when you don't, then they're going to come at you. So then the camaraderie that we used to have when I first started coaching with my president and all the upper administrations at the school, they were solid. They appreciated your hard work. The longer I coach, the more reluctant I was to getting close to those folks. I'm watching them real close because I knew who they were. And so things have changed. The pressure to win, the pressure to build programs changed during my tenure as a football coach. And I'll never forget how some of those college presidents looked at me and treated me when I really needed their support, when I really needed their help. I mean, I could go on and on and on about that because it was some trying times trying to build programs literally with nothing.
Now you bring that up, Coach. You bring that up, Coach Hayes, and like I say, I've watched PWI football my entire life. I've been a college football fan all my life, and what I see the difference that I see is the level of buy-in by the administration into athletics. PWIs and predominantly white schools have taken athletics and made that a primary aspect of building the brands for their universities, right?
Right.
Why do you think or do you believe HBCUs have taken that same opportunity to use sports to build their brand for their universities?
You know what? When you talk about PWIs, most of the times you don't even know who the chancellor is.
Right.
Nobody never calls his name. He is literally invisible. But you go to a historically black college, and the chancellor is going to be well known, out front, vocal, and everything. So it's just it's a completely different environment. And so I remember when I was at Wake Forest, I never saw the chancellor. He was never there. But the longer I stayed in college coaching at HBCUs, the more the presidents and chancellors were out front in the program, needing special attention, needing to be acknowledged, sending messages down about what you better get done. But when you needed money to get out and recruit and doing all the other things, then they were nowhere to be found. But I'm not upset with them because, like I said, what I learned is it's on me. I got to find a way to win. I can't depend on him because he really don't understand. And the only time he's concerned is on Saturday. Monday through Friday, he ain't concerned about how I'm going to function with these kids. I got to find a way to get a bus to get them on the trip. I got to get some food for them to have on Friday night before the game. I got to put everything in place for them to have success. And then I got to coach them to win and get them back home safely and then get them to church on Sunday morning. And I got to be at church with them. See, we got to do all that. But he ain't going to be nowhere around. But you drop a game and all of a sudden he going to call you up to his office. And it ain't going to be fun. So I've been down both roads.
Well, one of the things, and Coach Kemp, I want you to piggyback off this. We talked about some of these athletic directors they've been hired. One of them, of course, the late former AD at Florida A&M, who was 11th in a pool of 12 and got chosen as the AD. But Campbell, kind of take it away of they're not being trained. You know, this kind of your baby. Can you take it away from there and ask Coach?
Well, Coach, one of the things that we talked about, and, you know, you could think about the legendary athletic directors that you came up under and that were all at many of these great universities. A lot of the athletic directors had coaching backgrounds. So they actually knew what the coaches needed to support them. That's how they knew how to hire the right people and things like that. As we moved further into 2000, it became more of number crunchers and things like that. Who could balance the budget? And then, of course, the more rules and regulations. Coach, how was it? Because you talked about almost 150 players that you coach and your coaching tree put in the NFL. Talk about the development that you all did for these young men, that you were able to first identify the talent and then be able to coach them up and then allow them to go to the NFL. So along with the support system that you had during those times.
Well, you know, athletic directors changed during my years. You know, support, the word support is vital. Support me. Be there when I need you the most. Help me with the little things. I can take care of the major things. But sometimes you need some help with the little things. You need to know that these folk care and trust you. Because it's hard. Even having everything in place, it's still hard. Do you realize that you could, I remember times I went 3 years one time and never took a day off, and including Sundays. I coached 3 years straight, put on a Santa Claus suit on Christmas morning, giving scholarships for Christmas. It's hard. And you need somebody that really understands in your down times to put their arm around you and say, you know, we're with you. Keep trying. We're going to get there. But a lot of times it ain't like that. You can see it clearly when you've been where Johnnie Cole and I've been, when you're coaching. Because they come down after the game and you're not going to, if you have a bad game, you're not going to see them. They don't understand that sometimes you need somebody to put their arms around you and say, hey, you did a good job. It was a rough one. You came close. You know, we're with you. We're going to get them next week. They don't know about that. You know, they don't know about that at all. So it's hard. And it has changed a lot during my tenure. I remember when I started at Winston-Salem State, we had a minister for a chancellor, a great guy, always positive, always encouraging. His wife was always encouraging and positive. The longer I stayed in it, the more of those kind of folk I never saw anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I want to step in here and let everybody know we're listening to you're listening to HBCU Coaches Corner, and we are in the midst of a fascinating interview with your legendary HBCU head football coach, Bill Hayes. He has a wealth of knowledge and taking us down memory lane, giving us a history lesson, also adding perspective on things that are even happening now in coaching. Coaching, I would like to ask you this, Coach. You have an extensive coaching tree that has, that even to this day, that is very active in coaching. Can you give us some of those guys that you hired as coaches and tell us what makes a good coach? What makes a good coach? Coach Cole says this: only 25% of guys who ever gonna blow a whistle gonna win. The rest of the jokers gonna lose. So, with your coaching tree out there still in effect, you in the before we came on, you mentioned special relationships that you have with guys stemming all the way back to when you played football at North Carolina Central. Can you talk about that and tell us about guys that you influenced in the coaching business?
Man, let me just let me tell you this. I remember back in 1977 at the American Football Coaches Association, we started an organization called the United Coaches Association. Johnny, you remember, we started the United Coaches Association because we felt like we were not getting some of the appreciation from the American Football Coaches Association. Long story short, they made me president of the United Coaches Association in 1977. Guess what? The United Coaches Association became the Black Coaches Association. So you talking to the first Black Coaches Association president and Bill Hayes, and I'm proud of that. So it's never been easy. It's a total grind. The great Pete Richardson came up under me. I hired him out of high school up in Ohio. Guy came in, guy could coach. Very loyal, very dedicated. I had Rod Broadway at North Carolina Central. I had Gibbs' daddy, Stan Gibbs. We call him Mighty Mouse. So I remember when that boy was born. He probably born on a football bus coming back from a trip. But we had a lot of good ones, Coach, and I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish.
Coach, that you started, United Coach Association, went to the BCA.
Yeah.
Right? And we still was going. Coach, tell me, or did it ever dawn on you, whenever they came out with the Black college list of Black college coaches that could go and get a head job, there was never a Black college coach on the list.
That's right.
It just changed.
I know, Johnny. I know.
It changed. All of a sudden, not one HBCU coach was on that list. Not a Bill Hayes, not a W.C. Gordon at that time, not a Eddie Robinson, not a Marino Castle, no, but not a L.C. Cole, because he had just came to start. I was lost when I would see that list. I was jumping, offensively, I was doing well.
But Johnny, you know what? We can't do nothing about it. But I'm gonna tell you right now in front of this country, you are the smartest offensive minds I've been around, and no question about it. You could coach. You could move. You could move them chains, Johnny. And I used to, if you remember back, I used to come see. We're gonna bloody somebody's nose. We're gonna play some slobbermouth football. We're gonna be the best running that football and great kicking game. But you know how to get that ball down the field fast. And I used to admire you for that. In fact, you remember I used to come to you and get me 3 or 4 plays every year, Johnny. You remember that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I give you a lot of credit, you and your brother, for doing some of the things that you guys did to make our game a lot better. We ain't gonna change the way these folk in this country think. Right. Anytime you got a guy with 34 felonies running for president, I mean, come on, man. You know what I mean? And tired in the thing. Come on.
Coach, I got one other thing. All right. Of course, you picked some great staffs, and we talk about that. And in the last 20 years, all the championship SWAC coaches are, most of 90% of them is out of coaching, and the other 10% is assistant coach somewhere, which is crazy. When you pick your staff, or look at a staff, and our fans, Coach, because we talk truth on here, you know what I mean, and we giving them the real ideal on how and why a coach become a head coach. And when you picking your staff, kind of tell us how you went through that and how you try to go and find the best talent you can.
Well, first of all, we had a very limited amount of money.
Right.
That's the first thing. And so now I got to find me somebody that want to. Now, if he wants to badly enough, I can train him. So I ended up training most of the guys that came under me. because they didn't have it when they came to me. They didn't have the knowledge, nor the background, nor the skills, and we didn't have enough money to pay the ones that did. You see what I mean? We knew who had talent on the peripheral. We knew what guys at what schools could really get it done right then. But I didn't have the money.
So y'all did a collaborative thing. You could call other coaches and get a background check on the kid.
No question. And we're going to spend a lot of time going to conventions and watching other coaches and watching footwork and technique and watching film and walking through plays to make sure everybody was on the same page. You know, we had to make most of our coaches because we couldn't afford that. We didn't have the money, the budget to hire the quality ones that could come in ready-made. But guys like Pete Richardson came out of high school. He had great talent because he was a pro football player, cornerback. And
now, did you know he coached me, Coach? He coached me and my brothers.
Yeah, and could coach, couldn't he?
Coach.
Yeah, he could really get it done. And I had Wiley. These young guys don't remember, but Wiley Harris, Bo Lightning, from Johnson C. Smith and A&T. Wiley Harris could coach football. One of the greats. You know, we beat Eddie 5 times in a row, Johnny. He never beat us. No.
Now, Coach, do you think, and I'll be telling these guys sometimes, that's what's happening with our football. And it ain't so much that the NFL is not saying, oh, I don't want to draft a black college football player. Because, Bill, you know, when they used to draft them all the time. It's that we don't have those type of players anymore. And a lot of that, and Bill, you can contest, is because you don't have some old coaches on your staff that can make some phone calls that they either know the kid's parent, they know the high school, they know the high school coach. And we get a lot of players just of who we are. And because we've been in the back. So when you out and you always sitting thinking about young coach, we need a young coach. That's true enough. But those guys who have won championships in 20 years, they shields to be somewhere coaching on somebody's staff.
And you know, we made a lot of players too. You know, we found that shell. We knew how tall we wanted that DB to be. We knew how, and we wanted to recruit a lot of corners, but we find that body type that we're looking for. And then we start coaching on it. One step at a time. Footwork, hand placement, weightlifting, running. So we made a lot of football players. First of all, we're gonna go out and we're gonna find the shell that we're looking for. He may be a long ways away from the end result, but we're gonna get the right shell. You know, when I brought in Timmy Newsom, here's a 6'2", 200-pound running back. You know, actually, he played defensive end, and I moved him to running back because he had what I wanted. He had what I wanted in a running back. Then I had his teammate Arrington Jones from Richmond, Virginia. He's 6'2", 225 tailback. Back in the day, so we bigger and better and faster and stronger than most folk are up front. So we knew the kind of guy that we wanted to coach, and we knew how he wanted him to look. We knew how he wanted his feet to move. So we never recruited a guy if his knee, he was knock-kneeded, as we used to call it back in the day, or slew-footed. We wanted him to have straight feet.
That's right.
You know, we wanted to be a certain height. We wanted to be able to run. If he could, then we put him in a program. We can train him for 3-4 years. The thing that I don't understand, Johnny, is how you get kids ready now and then somebody come and buy them from you the next year. That would break my heart. As much time as we spend developing kids, it was like a marriage. And you develop this kid and you put all this time in him, and all of a sudden the next year he gone because somebody come and offer him $2 or $3 more. That would break my heart. I'm glad I was out of it before.
I'm glad. I've been thinking about this, guys, and you'll get a kick out of this, Coach Hayes. If the NCAA want to be right, especially the 1AA schools in Division II, when those big schools come to take one of their players, they need to pay the school. For all the training, like you said, Coach, the food we fed him, the dorm, they need to pay the school as well. That's right. Just another subject.
That's right.
At least these smaller schools are getting some besides losing these big time players.
That's right.
You know, so it's got to be something. And that's the thing too, Coach. You said it so eloquently, how older coaches can see a kid that they've coached in the past. His shoulders are wide instead of narrow. His feet are sloop instead of straight. His knees are tight instead of, or his hips. You know, and you can look at that player because you developed a player like him before, Coach Campbell, and you go after it. You know what I mean? You know. But when you're a young guy and you ain't been out there and you ain't recruited some bad ones that you thought was gonna be good, you don't know what you're looking for. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying?
Well,
That's
So,
right.
it's very important that you learn how to turn over those rocks.
well, let
Go on. I'm
me
sorry.
ask you this, Coach. Coach, you guys were talking about how Johnny Coach Cole could scheme plays, and then you guys got to having a conversation about player development. Which one of those components do you guys see as being the cornerstone of a program? Being able to scheme it up and run it, or being able to take a player with marginal talent and develop him into something?
Well, you got to have the player develop before you can do scheme.
Yeah.
So Johnny can't scheme with unless he got something to scheme with. You know what I mean? He got to have the right. He got to have the right players. You know, and what we learned over the years. Well, see, there are certain type of players that get recruited. For example, if you're a 6'2 and a half, 6'3 offensive tackle in high school weighing 210 pounds, nobody gonna look at you. You're not gonna get a look. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring in all those guys as walk-ons, because they're not gonna get recruited. So we're gonna recruit tackles. We're gonna make the rest of them. We're gonna recruit corners. We're gonna recruit. You see, you're not gonna beat us throwing the ball, so we're gonna recruit corners. We're not going to recruit wideouts. We're going to recruit corners, because that's the cornerstone of your defense. So we're going to put our money on. We didn't have enough money. We never had a full complement of scholarships. So the money we got, we're going to put it on them corners, because you're not going to beat us throwing the football. And so certain positions, like outside linebackers, we ain't got enough money to recruit them. So we're going to make them. So we're going to bring in our regular 30 signees, but we're going to bring in 60 walk-ons. And of the 60 walk-ons, when the smoke clear, we're going to have 30 football players, because 30 of them going to leave. But they're going to get dissatisfied and disgruntled about this, that, and the other. They ain't playing. They're away from mama. You know, things ain't like it was in high school. You know, when the lights, and you're going to have to sit out that first year. You're not going to play a whole lot. You probably won't even practice a whole lot, normal practice. But then what I found out is after a year, that guy is just as good or better than the kid I signed the year before. Right. So we had a formula. Because we had a lack of money, you know, it's like your budget now. You can't go out and buy no Maserati with your budget. So you go out and get something and keep it washed and the tires glossed, because you can't afford them. So we couldn't afford to recruit at every position. So we recruited the vital positions, and we made the other positions. And what we found out is the ones we made ended up being, we call them program kids.
Yes, sir. Yes.
We're going to keep them five, 5.5, sometimes 6 years. You know? And build them. That's what the young coaches got to learn how to do. They got to learn how to take that program kid. He's got the right height. He got straight feet. He ain't knock-kneed. He go to class. He ain't no drug head. He going to do what you ask him to do. He going to be around 5, 6 years. Now, you take him and develop him.
Preach it, Coach. Preach it.
Huh?
I said, preach it, Coach. You preaching it.
I know. And so first I got to teach him what to do with his feet. How to use his feet, his good footwork, good hand placement, good hip hop. You know, I'm going to take him through so many drills. We're going to work the living hell out of him, man. Yeah. And you know what? From the time he goes to school in August to March, We got him in a special program. When March rolls around and we start thinking about spring ball, he gonna be better than that recruit because he had all this fundamental training. And like I said, we might bring in 90, but you're gonna lose half of them because they spoiled them. A lot of them are mama's boys and spoiled, and mama done told them, it ain't like it. They don't know what the real world is like. But the ones that stay, I had one named D. Loach that I think about. Ended up starting with the Carolina Panthers. He's 6'3". He 175 pounds from down the eastern part of the state, could run like a deer. Came in, we made a corner out of him. Here's a 6'3", 4'5" cornerback that was a walk-on. Ended up being signed a pro contract.
With what you need to know, today is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. Number 1, the Harris Walls campaign bus started its tour in southern Georgia as the Harris presidential campaign has joined a lawsuit against the Georgia State Election Board, challenging new election rules that could delay certification. Democrats argue that these rules, which lack a clear definition of reasonable inquiry, could lead to election chaos. Meanwhile, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is seeking legal advice on whether he has the authority to remove 3 Republican members of the state's election board who are accused of overstepping their authority in implementing the new rules. Number 2, NASA's decided that astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, who were scheduled to return from space after about a week, will now return early next year from the ISS on a SpaceX vehicle due to issues with Boeing's Starliner. Starliner experienced thruster failures and helium leaks early in the mission. NASA prioritized crew safety, leaving Boeing to resolve their technical problems. Number 3, Walmart has recalled nearly 10,000 cases of apple juice due to potentially harmful levels of inorganic arsenic. The FDA classified the recall as urgent, though serious health risks are unlikely. The recall affects Great Value brand apple juice sold in 25 states, Puerto Rico, and D.C. Number 4, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta allowed Florida to enforce a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. The ruling revives a law prohibiting puberty blockers and hormonal treatments for transgender minors and restricts treatment options for transgender adults. Advocacy groups expressed disappointment, stating the decision denies life-saving care to transgender individuals. Number 5. It's Black and Missing Wednesday. Kaylee Marie Bryant has been missing from Atlanta, Georgia since August 19th. The 17-year-old female is believed to be in danger. She was last seen in the Druid Hills area of Atlanta and may be in need of medical attention. Kaylee is described as 5 feet tall, 119 pounds, light complexion, and hazel eyes. She was last seen wearing a white sleeveless tank top and blue jeans. Anyone with information on Kaylee's disappearance, please go to the Black and Missing Foundation website. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. Meditation is a great way to relax the mind, helping you to focus on the present and let go of worries or anxieties. So inhale, relax the mind. Exhale, worry. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central with comedian Myra J., LGBTQ activist Quinn Townsend Riley, and special guest, comedian J. Anthony Brown, as we discuss the day's top headlines and more. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed. Be
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.